Hello, and welcome to the AV Forums Movies Podcast. It's the podcast where we attempt to discuss the best and worst movies and TV shows from an AV perspective. And we really are doing that today because we're going to be talking the majority about disc releases. So you can look forward to that. I'm Tom Davis, and joining me tonight is the Dazzler, Mark Costello.
Evening all.
The Straight Arrow, Kaz Harlow.
Yep, boutique label right here.
And the 88 Simon Crust.
Hello, Internet Land. Welcome to Show and Tell.
We're continuing our vein of not discussing mainstream releases this week, and we are continuing our vein of talking about topics that interest us. And off the back of the release of Dune in 4K by Arrow this week, we thought we'd have a bit of a chat about boutique labels and what they are doing to preserve movies and physical media. But before we get into that, we've got a few competitions running on the website. Is that not right, Kaz?
It is, yes. There are a few just loaded in, actually, just in time for the podcast.
Great.
You can win Criterion September titles on Blu-ray. They include Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which I believe Mark thinks is one of the best films ever, and Beasts of No Nation. There's also The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is Conjuring 5 on Blu-ray. Dazzler's Sound of Violence on Blu-ray. Quiet Place 2 4K Survival Bundle. It comes with bandages. Sound of Metal on Blu-ray. Mortal Kombat Battle of the Realms on Blu-ray. The Father on Blu-ray, which is a Patreon exclusive. May Gray, the complete series on limited edition Blu-ray. That's a really, really fat box that I've got around here. It's big. It's a big prize. Criterion's August titles on Blu-ray, which is a Patreon exclusive, and the big one, which is a Valencia Theatre seating luxury recliner worth £1,400.
Awesome. Thank you very much. If you want to enter any of those, just go over to the website, avforums.com/competitions. All competitions are open to eligible AV Forums members resident in the UK who aren't Phil Hinton. So it's worth it, by the way, just to talk a little bit about those competitions that we've got going on. A couple of those are Patreon exclusives, including The Father, which is one of the best films of the year, easily. And last month's Criterion titles. It's £3 to join up as a Patreon. And as the price of a raffle ticket for a prize where you might win the Valencia luxury recliner worth £1,400, I would say that was worth the price of admission. So if you're interested in becoming a Patreon, then go to our patreon.com/AV Forums and join up for £3 a month. The number of patrons we have, makes entering the competitions worth it. Believe me, you will get something.
I think one of them has just won his second set of Criterion titles.
See?
On the anniversary of his first set. So I thought that was particularly apt.
That is apt. So become a patron. Do it. You can stay tuned as well because we've got a podcast exclusive coming at the end of the podcast. So stay tuned for the question for that competition. But like I said, we've been turning our attention to boutique Blu-ray and 4K labels and thinking about the quality of their output. So stay tuned for our feature presentation.
If you enjoy the podcast on YouTube, then please like and subscribe. If you're listening to the audio version, then please leave us a rating on your podcast app. We invite you to email questions and feedback to podcast@avforums.com and join in with this episode's discussion thread in the podcasts forum at AV Forums.
So we're talking about the labels that are releasing the kind of cultier side of movies, right? We've each chosen a label that we think is doing particularly good stuff at the moment, and I think we've even got some props with us. Is that right, guys?
Oh, definitely.
So people watching the live stream, you're in for a real treat because you'll actually get to see some of the toys that we play with. Our listener question, if you're tuning in live and watching on YouTube, you can put in to the live chat your answer to the question, what has been your best boutique label buy? I guess we should probably define what we mean when we say like a boutique label. I'm going to put you on the spot, Simon. How would you how would you define what we're talking about here? What kind of labels are we talking about?
Anything that isn't mainstream. So you want to forget about things like Universal, Warner, or Paramount, anything like that. We're talking about small labels that are very keen on films and movies that normal big distributors tend to ignore or put to the bottom or release quickly and forget about. So we'll be talking something like Eureka, Criterion, I don't know, Second Sound, 88 Films, Arrow, that kind of.
They do the Lord's work.
They do.
I mean,
they seem to care a lot more about the quality of their work than, say, a lot of the major studios who just are only interested in the quick return for their investment. Whereas these smaller companies tend to love to film. They are film enthusiasts in the main run, and they pour their love into the release. So not only do you get a quality disc in that it's been authored well, it's been cleaned up well, but it tends to come with a whole load of extras as well. Not necessarily video extras, but books and other packaging, all that kind of stuff.
That's the real treat, isn't it? I mean, maybe it's a treat or maybe it's tact. Like,
well, fine line.
It's a fine line, absolutely. Just before we get started, we've already had questions put into the chat, so this is great. Good engagement. Thumbs up for engagement. Son of SJ said in the video description, we've said that streaming is becoming kind of monolithic, and what we mean is that streaming is almost the only place that people go now for movies. Like, it's almost the only place that people even bother looking for movies. And with these more boutique outputs, with these more with these smaller labels, they're able to pick up some of the stuff that streaming maybe is not. This sounds bad, but maybe streaming is not interested in for whatever reason,
and doesn't necessarily do justice to.
Yeah, it doesn't do justice.
I'm going to call it mainstreaming.
Yeah,
but yeah. I think if you look at the titles, even what Disney has done to relatively mainstream titles on their platform is great for the mass consumer. But if you think about the old sets that you used to get, whether it's, I think they recently picked up one of the Alien movies. You think about the old Alien sets with 2 versions of every movie and a lovely collection with a bunch of extras. Probably get the packaging which looks like an alien head and freak everybody out in your household. Versus on Disney, they'll give you the theatrical cut in HD 5.1, like it or lump it, and most people will like it. Mm-hmm. But I think that it's definitely the opposite of what boutique labels are doing. And to Simon's point, I think it's very interesting the vast difference between the attitude even in the same films. So I noticed, I'm not going to remember which studio released it, but it was one of the big ones. When Waterworld was released by Arrow, mm-hmm. they did a Blu-ray set with the extended 3-hour cuts that no one wanted to see, but I enjoyed. And a whole bunch of extras, beautiful sets, beautiful packaging, really went above and beyond for it. And then I'm going to take a pot shot in the dark and say Universal released the 4K and nothing, just the theatrical cut, and no bother with all of the great lengths that the Arrow had done. And I would have thought it would have been relatively easy just to take all the hard work Arrow had done and convert that into an equivalent set. It might have cost some licensing fees, but really they could have done it. But it's what Simon was talking about. The studios don't care because people just buy Waterworld in 4K. And I remember that being a time when I went, no, I'm not going to buy it in 4K because I really like the Arrow sets. And
I would say it's probably more true that the bigger studios are guilty of putting out more tapped in a box rather than
Decent spec,
lovingly
yeah.
restoring, on the disc itself. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of The Thing. Like it's maybe my second favorite movie ever. And I have a box from Universal, and it is full of tat. It is, it's got an Outpost 31 badge, and it's got a copy of Who Goes There, the source novella, and all that absolute rubbish on it, which I do love because I'm a bit of a hoarder, but the discs themselves, pretty standard, nothing particularly special. And I think when you look at the stuff that came with the Arrow, again, calling back to Arrow, who are kind of like almost market leaders in this business at this point. The stuff that came with their version of it was just reams of stuff that hadn't been seen in years, if ever. Like an interview between, oh gosh, this is going to bug me now, but I think on that set there's an interview between John Carpenter and John Landis, and there's somebody else on there as well. But anyway, it's a grouping of directors that you think, God, Joe Dante, that is just unbelievable. You see these people together just doing this stuff. And the main studios, they're not really bothered about that because maybe their focus is now on streaming.
And it probably costs money.
Yeah. And they'll sell as many titles as they want in whatever release they do. Just that's what they put it down to. They don't want to cater for the small percentage of people who want to see that extra interview or for me, the extra cuts. I normally really like the extra cuts.
So let's choose. We've already been requested on the live chat to choose your best. What do you like best? Choose your best ones. So we're going to choose our best ones. Luckily we prepare for this sort of thing. So we have, as I said, a few props with us, but I'm not sure that Mark necessarily needs a prop when the viewers can probably see behind him a whole host of them. Mark, tell us a bit about your love for the boutique label.
Well, my law, obviously it all started back in DVD days with Criterion flying the flag. Obviously the US had Criterion, we had Vipco, which still did some of the Lord's work, but more in a quantity rather than quality work. But I think really my sort of love affair with these boutique labels started, and I had to track back 2010. I got both my first Arrow Blu-ray and my first Criterion Blu-ray. The Criterion one was Seven Samurai, obviously. The Arrow one, the Arrow one I think you'll find was slightly better and nudges it for nice top spot, was Arrow's City of the Living Dead by Lucio Fulci. And I think the thing that what Arrow did very cleverly early on, not just they had those white window box slip boxes that made suddenly everything stand out on the shelf, but they curated those first few releases so that for you middle agers out there, shall we say, who are more in line with my own age, it pushed all the buttons. You had the Euro horror from Fulci. You had Inferno in there from Dario Argento. You had Red Scorpion in there for all you Dolph action fans. You had Vamp, who Videodrome lovers will know from the old Alex Cox BBC Two Sunday night viewings. And I think for me, what that started there was these boutique labels became like curated playlists on Spotify, and since then, obviously, according to my Blu-ray.com app behind me, which are and it's just worked out like this. I'm not really that committed to the podcast, honestly. These are my boutique label shelves. I have shelves for 88 films, for Arrow, for Criterion, and just a quick look through my Blu-ray.com app says that I have 314 Arrow titles. I have 185 88 films titles. I have put money into these, but I treat them like that curated playlist, and they've built up enough goodwill through introducing me to the likes of Fulci, to Argento, to Sergio Martino, to Benson and Moorhead, that now anything that's 88 films released in its slasher collection or its Italian collection, I'm buying.
Or the Van Damme collection.
Or the Van Damme collection, absolutely. And there's some tat in there, but I almost enjoy the tat as much as the good stuff. And so for me, I have huge affection for these labels. And I think the good thing for me that we started to see a few years ago is they then became market leaders for quality. I think those early Arrow releases, same with the 88 Films releases, you know, they weren't the best quality. And that was due to the source material that they were able to get. But now they're all in-housing, brand new restorations. Even the tattest slasher from the early 80s that no one's seen is getting a 4K restoration. What a glorious time to be alive. So
I think you're right. And I think the way that you've put it there is just so spot on. It's right on the money. It is like somebody curating a playlist for you, especially if you are somebody who is interested in film, but maybe wants to broaden their horizons. They are just so good. So especially something like you say, like with 88 or with 101 Films as well. You think like, I've discovered this genre. Now let me look at what these guys think is worth watching. It's absolute magic. What about your best boutique buy, Mark? What's your thing you're most proud of?
Well, I could have gone for the nostalgic pick, the classic Criterion Brazil. I had that on DVD, and it was the first time I thought, wow, this is something special. 2 cuts, feature-length documentary. It's a thing of beauty. But no. I could have gone for one of my long-lost gems, the Metropolis set from Eureka, because it's got the Giorgio Moroder cut on, which for years I thought actually starred Queen. But no, I'm going with something that I think represents the future of boutique labels, and even the future of 4K boutique labels. Now, cast your mind back to the glorious days of the early 80s. Sword and sorcery was everywhere.
I can't do this, Mark. I can't be involved in this. I wasn't alive then.
No. For those glorious years between 80 and 83, we got the likes of Hawk the Slayer, Excalibur, Dragon Slayer. We got Krull, we got Conan, we got Sword and Sorcery. All of those pale into the classic, The Beastmaster. Now, you know it's true. Arnie can go and get stuff. Mark Singer in a loincloth is where it's at. So, obviously, for those that don't know, this is from Don Coscarelli, the guy behind Phantasm, and it is an insane mix of, it's got some Disney cute animals in there. Kodo and Podo are comedy ferrets who get up to all kinds of japes. You've got, obviously, the sort of lone wolf samurai sword and sorcery flick going in there. But then you've got Coscarelli brings this Phantasm horror stuff into it with some, child sacrifices. Oh, they're all flying into the flames from all over the shop. There's crazed winged demons sucking the it's insane. But it also has, crucially, something that only one of those other films had: boobs. Now, obviously, Conan is well known for it, and we know that. But Conan was rated appropriately. But when I was that age, back in the early 80s, you could legitimately watch this. And there's Tanya Roberts with those eyes and those things, and it was glorious. And so for me, the film it's not quite Krull, but it's a bit more insane than Krull. So it will always have a special place in my heart. However, I want to talk about this set, though. So this is from Vinegar Syndrome. Am I okay to do this, Tom, now?
Yeah, go for it.
So this is from Vinegar Syndrome. Now, this is called the Magnet Clasp Edition. But look at that. It's a magnet in a clasp. Okay. Just look, this is what boutique labels are all about. Just look at the artwork. Okay. Glorious artwork in here. You open it up. You've got a slipcase as well inside the box, all with original art in. I mean, this is the box. It's like a book. You just want to sit and read it. And then you get to the actual disc itself. So the 4K restoration, it's not from the camera negative, because unfortunately that's been lost. But it's I think it's from an interpositive, I think. But it's native 4K HDR. A warning flashes up that there's some print damage that they didn't want to get rid of. But it looks amazing. I mean, it's got the HDR in some scenes are so bright it's searing your eyes, but it looks amazing. It sounds great. The film has got 2 cuts on it. One is a version of the theatrical, but it's had some VFX work redone with some rubbish CG. Not that great. But there's 2 audio commentaries, 2 feature-length making-ofs. Oh, it's sumptuous. And I think it does the film absolute justice.
That's exactly what we're after. That's exactly what we as absolute losers want from a box set, right?
Oh
yeah.
Losers United, here we roar. Yes, absolutely. It was brilliant. That version is sold out, but Vinegar Syndrome have released a non-magnet clasp edition for all you losers out there. And it's well worth picking up. Honestly, it's brilliant.
No magnet clasp. Why would you?
No magnet clasp, no sale.
Oh dear! What a beautiful example to start us off with. I have zero love for Beastmaster, but that set has made me reconsider.
Hashtag cancel Tom.
I've been cancelled long ago. Simon, what about you? What's been your greatest boutique buy?
Oh dear. There's so many. There are so many, and I'm surrounded myself with a few. Shout Factory or Scream Factory with their horror arm are they're an American firm, but they've released some superb stuff. Long before it came to the UK, reviewed on the site, Nightbreed, the director's cut, they actually paid for and got Clive Barker to recut his film into the version that he wanted. And this is it here. You get 2 discs and a load of notes and restoration stuff. And that was brilliant. That was not reviewed on the site, but equally fantastic. A few years before that, we have what is this? 15-disc deluxe edition of Halloween. Every copy of Halloween that there ever was. Yeah. Up until the last one, it was released a couple of years ago. Now, this was, again, only an American release. 15 discs, everyone, including a producer's cut of this one here, which doesn't exist anywhere else.
That's amazing.
I mean, what a set that is.
Yeah, you can print half of those and throw them away.
I think the big thing with that set, though, is how it got all the rights together for all those films is beyond me. And that's the kind of thing we won't see again.
Yeah,
exactly right. And the work they did to put it all together, it's a remarkable set, an absolutely remarkable set. And I've watched exactly this many.
Before you rebuy the new 4K edition, Simon.
That's right, exactly.
I'm going to hold out for the Friday the 13th.
I mentioned Second Sound. I of course meant Second Sight films. Dawn of the Dead, we've spoke about that before. This is a very, very sumptuous set, so I won't go on about this one. But they also released earlier, a couple of years ago, I mean, this is a fantastic old film of mine, Flight of the Navigator. This was released as a special, and it comes with all sorts of bells and whistles with it here, books and posters and everything. And that was super cheap. That was only like 10 quid, and you get all this stuff with it. Great film. I enjoyed it. One of my most favourite films of all time has got to be Night of the Demon.
Nice. Now,
for years and years and years, you couldn't get this on this country. There was you could get it in blue in DVD, and France released a disc which was quite heavily digitized when I first reviewed it on site, and then lo and behold, a company I've never heard of before called Indicator got the rights to it here, put it together, 2 versions of it, with a poster, with cards, with a book about it, and it's a superb film. And a fantastic set. And again, it wasn't a particularly expensive. It's $14.99, something like that.
It's amazing. Indicator have been doing really, really good stuff in terms of curating sets, like not just like but like themed sets. Really, really incredible. But I'm very jealous of that Night of the Demon, so I'm going to look for that
I don't know that you'll find it now, actually. I mean, I don't know. I hope you do. I hope you do, because it is awesome. Again, reviewed on site. That set is reviewed on site, so you can see what you're missing. Of course, Blue Underground. Of course, they are doing the Lord's work with some terrific horror stuff. Again, we've spoken about this one, Zombie. Lucio Fulci's opus, a glorious film made in response to Dawn of the Dead. And chock full of gore, and it sumptuous restoration. I mean, they did glorious work on the Blu-ray 2 years ago, and then they've used that master and upped it again to give even better detail, even better colouring. It's a superb disc. And if you like this type of film and you haven't got this, I urge you to get this version. It's the version to get.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm surrounded by a few more, but I don't want to hold the time for too much. But I do want to talk a little bit about Eureka and the work they've been doing, because they I always viewed Eureka as the British version of Criterion. They sort of bring out the older films that people don't necessarily recognize or jump towards in their Masters of Cinema line, and they give it superb restorative work. They pack it full of extras, and they're good value.
They're really good value, and they often, I know that this is not really a selling point anymore, but it used to be the case that it was a selling point that they would sell you the Blu-ray and DVD always. It would always be both.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the
day. And funny you should mention that. The disc I've picked from them is perhaps the greatest horror film of all time.
Ooh, I've got that one.
Nosferatu. Yeah. 1921. Murnau's one of his greatest films, and one of my most favorite films of all time. And if we got time, I'll regale you with a little bit of my history with the film Nosferatu, because it encompasses a little bit about what we're talking about. I first came across it, crikey, would have been late 80s, something like that. VHS was around, and a pal of mine said, "Have you seen this film?" And he showed me a Eureka VHS of Nosferatu. Didn't let me borrow it at the time, and I thought, "Oh, that's fantastic! I like to look at that." I sort of just way before internet, of course, and I thought, "Oh, that's great! I'll try and find that." Couldn't find it anywhere; sold out already. And there was a label around. You may remember this, Mark. A label called Redemption. Do you remember them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, they brought out plenty of Euro trash, plenty of Euro horror. At the time, most of it was cut. Stuff like Flavor the Heretic, Killer Nun, all those kind of weird and wonderful Euro trash. And they also had Nosferatu. I bought it, obviously, because I love it. I watched it, and I thought, and there was some terrible synthy type music towards it. So I wanted to get my mate to tape over my music with his music, which was on the Eureka disc, which was much better. It was more orchestral. And it was then that we noticed that there were two different run times. Okay. And I thought, hang on, what's going on about this? So I started looking into Nosferatu, and it turns out that because of the situation that Nosferatu got into, which I'm not going to talk about now, but a lot of it was cut and missing and whatever. And there were various different cuts of it. Eureka had a much longer version than the Redemption one. So fast forward a couple of years, DVD comes around, and one of the first discs that Eureka release is a 2-disc version of Nosferatu. Fantastic. One was black and white, one was sepia. It was a pretty good set. I'm not sure I reviewed it on site at that time, but it was good. It was had everything that I wanted at the time. Now, fast forward another couple of years, and Kino, I think it was Kino in America, which is another very fantastic, which are doing great work now, actually, released a Region 1 version of Nosferatu, which was touted to have a missing 20 or 30 seconds. But not only that, they actually coloured it. They put in the correct colouring because, believe it or not, Nosferatu was never black and white. It was actually meant to have tints in it. There was blue for night, there was pink for dawn, and sort of an orangey colour for evening.
That's awesome.
So that came out. Obviously, I bought that one. And then Eureka, not to be outdone, brought out a similar version, full uncut version, as they termed it, coloured, but this time with the original music that was when it premiered. So now I have the Holy Grail. I thought, this is it. It can't get any better. It cannot get any better than this. And then this bugger comes along, the Blu-ray. So I now own all those other things have now gone. They've all gone. And the only version I have left is this, the Blu-ray version. And it's not the best picture.
Oh no.
Can you believe it? So what's happened here? They've got reviewed on site. I'll talk about it there. It's the picture itself is great. It's a fresh scan. It's cleaner. It's nowhere near as damaged. It's tight. The contrast is great, but it's framed at 24 frames, 24 hertz. Okay. Now, when Nosferatu was made, there's a bit of debate. Probably 16, more likely 18, possibly 20, but it's more likely 18 frames per second. It was never meant to be 24, and at 24 frames a second, which this is.
Oh, that's going to look goofy.
It's too slow. It's too slow. Yeah. Luckily, as you said, it has the DVD in it, so I still got it. So for my pick, although it's
that's awesome.
Heartache and stress, this is my pick because Nosferatu is my most favourite film.
No, that's amazing.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, really, really good, Si. Really good. And it's that what you were saying about them picking up Eureka. I mean, picking up these. I guess the sorts of things that you may expect Criterion to choose, but from an earlier age, I guess, is where Eureka come from. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't so long ago that they put out their version. Oh no! I was about to tell an absolute lie, but they put out Onibaba, which is one of my absolute favorite movies.
Oh yeah,
and it's just incredible.
Japanese horror, yeah.
But now, getting in on that action, I think Arrow Academy had started doing the same thing because recently they've been picking up stuff like the film noirs, the film noir box set they recently put out. I say recently, last year, I think it was Bicycle Thieves. So they're kind of like muscling in on that action. It'll be interesting to see how Eureka cope with that in future. Kaz, you've been extremely quiet. Let's hear what you've got to say. What about you? What are your boutiques of choice?
I mean, it's a very similar path of progression to Mark. Maybe a couple of years later, but essentially the same kind of thing. I was brought up with Criterion, and back in the day, Criterion actually nabbed a few relatively big films that I don't think they'd ever get a hold of again. So I enjoyed RoboCop, Criterion, and Silence of the Lambs, and even For My Sins, Armageddon. Things that they would never go near ever again, and no one will ever let them have. But that kind of introduced me to the idea that a smaller label could pick up a mainstream movie, do a whole bunch of extras, an unrated cut, and release it in a proper set with nice packaging. That's something that the bigger labels didn't do. But the path to progression has, like Mark says, with his love for 88 films, it's actually probably Studio Canal, which I'm going to say is borderline boutique.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have. When they bought up the Carolco run, they picked a bunch of relatively niche titles, and they did 4K native restorations with Dolby Vision on things that I could only dream would come to the format. And it gave me hope that 4K had legs, and that all my favorite films, like Mark said, curating that ultimate playlist and somehow digging into my mind and picking out things that no one else would pick. So picking out Cliffhanger or
Emmanuel.
or Universal Soldier, or probably for my money, Angel Hearts. Getting Angel Hearts onto a 4K disc with a native restoration Dolby Vision just seemed like it seemed to me like that would be the last 4K release, not one of the earlier ones. So that really made a huge difference in terms of so there Studio Canal's Angel Heart was a big one, and Arrow jumping on 4K and releasing the double whammy of Pitch Black, and I think it was it Tremors, maybe?
Tremors,
Yeah.
For
right.
early on, but then following it up with, again, a title that seemed to have been culled just from my personal top 100 movies, which is King of New York. Who would ever stick King of New York on 4K?
I was thinking the same of Crash as well, which was around the same time, right? Just a month later, I think.
Who would do Crash on 4K and then go to town on the packaging and the artwork, gorgeous artwork.
Yeah.
So when these films started popping up, it really gave me hope that we weren't just going to get all the Marvel films in 4K with 2K DIs.
Mm-hmm.
We were actually going to get native 4K 80s action classic-tastic niche movies galore, which for my money often wowed me a lot more than modern releases, which I kind of halfway expected to be good, and which the Blu-rays often did 90% of the work for. It's actually these older films, when they restored them, I was like, wow. And a prime example is probably Kino's Mad Max. I mean, I was never really seduced to Kino until probably around Mad Max and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly time. But when they did Mad Max, I just thought, why won't someone give them the other Mad Max films? I think they've been passed back to a mainstream studio to release a full set for. But
you're desperate for Tina Turner in Chainmail.
Yeah, well, I just want to see the second film where he seems to think that sucking up gas with a piece of cloth off the floor is going to fuel his fuel-injected last of the V8 interceptors, which it's just not. But yeah, these are the things that really made it. If I had to pick the best sets I think I've ever owned in terms of packaging and comprehensive cuts and extras and everything, it's probably the Blade Runner 5-disc briefcase box set. I mean, if I wanted that to happen for every movie that I loved, it would be like that, trawling through 5 very different cuts across I don't know, was it 8 or 10 discs? It was a ridiculous amount of discs.
It was.
A whole host of extras, feature-length documentary, countless commentaries, gorgeous box for the actual discs, but then that's housed within a replica Blade Runner silver briefcase, which also has one of his spinners in it, and I think I've actually got it up on the shelf, little origami unicorn. I mean, and some cards, I think. I can't remember what else came in it, but they really went to town on that set. Now, I know you can't do it for everything, but that's one movie.
Yeah.
They took that movie and they did everything you could possibly want for it. You can't do it for everything, but if studios, niche studios, boutique studios, every studio could aspire to a Blade Runner Blu-ray briefcase box set for every one of the films I love, I would stump up the money for it.
Whenever they do that for Star Wars, I'm paying literally thousands of pounds for it.
Yeah, really nice, a really nice proper set with all of the. I mean,
a true restoration.
Don't even want to get into how many cuts of Star Wars there are. But, I mean,
that's a very, very different podcast.
Reinstate the scene with Biggs. Put everything back.
I think that there's so many versions of these films out there. They could really, so that's the ultimate for boutique for me.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because they behind me, if you're not watching, I've got a background of David Lynch's Dune, which is sort of what spurred this conversation in the first place, was the release of Dune, which is, I don't know, I feel like it is the definition of a cult movie, like a movie which I will grudgingly accept has some issues with it, but which
7 out of 10.
which in my eyes is
A
just
7.
untouchable, just incredible. But it is a movie where they could give it that treatment. It has had as many and more iterations as Blade Runner in terms
But
of
they haven't they? They've got a 6-disc release by Koch Media
in Germany,
which
true.
no one can buy because they're in England.
If you know somebody in Germany, you can absolutely buy it and get them to pass it on to you. Yeah. But yeah, they're full, and I believe it includes like soundtrack and TV cut, the Alan Smithy cut, and and everything. It's all in there.
I am curious why Arrow
documentary
and a new feature-length documentary, sadly missing from the.
It was on the
UK.
PR gear, but it never came.
I am curious why Arrow didn't go the extra mile for that.
I don't know that it wasn't going the extra mile. I imagine
Must
there
have been
was
something rights.
There must have been a last-minute legal thing.
But for all of that stuff, not just the documentary, like
for the TV cut and stuff.
Why didn't they pick all of the cuts? Why didn't they just do a Waterworld on it?
I don't know.
I mean, I am interested in, because I've got the Dune sets. I got the Steelbook.
The Steelbook set is great.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's lovely.
But I was wondering, why is there a 6-disc version out there, and why is it not being released by Arrow for like £100? Sure, if they want to, if they want to go nuts on it. But
I think it's something like €99, so it's not even that, to be honest. Like, but yeah, I completely agree. It's weird that there is more out there, and it's weird. It's unusual, considering Arrow's MO, that they would not put that on, even in HD, rather than even in SD, for God's sake, that they wouldn't include that in there.
But again, I think Simon's right. I think this is an issue that is going to be particularly thorny for the boutique labels, is the rights issue. So you look at something like Arrow, who are they're a borderline major boutique label.
They are now.
But even they, with their US releases and their UK releases, they still can't release all films in all territories.
Yeah.
So, Arrow are bringing out a super duper, not so full set of Legend in the US, for example. We're not getting it over here.
Mm-hmm.
Mallrats got a super duper Arrow release in the States. We're not getting a sniff of it over here. And especially for the smaller films where there are multiple production companies involved, half the people now have died, so the rights are a mess. I think that is a particularly tricky issue for a lot of these boutique labels.
Was it Flash? Was it Flash that did that split between Studio Canal and Arrow?
Yeah, Flash was Arrow in the States. Yeah,
because I remember the Studio Canal set being pretty impressive.
It was thoroughly comprehensive. If you got the full set, including the Queen soundtrack.
Yeah, so you have to wonder why. Well,
it is. It's
a rights thing, as Mark says.
It's a historic rights thing, isn't it? That's what's going on, and it's not an easy thing to worm your way out of, unfortunately.
That's apt for Dune.
Yeah. That was not intentional, but yeah, absolutely. We'll put a worm pun in there. Why not? There was a Patreon poll, as there always is, before these podcasts, where I asked the patrons which of the boutique labels was their favorite. By far and away, the winner was Arrow.
Yeah.
I think I was an Arrow convert really, like, quite early on. Like Mark says, some of the white window, the windowed with the white border releases. I think that was how I first picked up Beyond Reanimator, which is a god awful movie.
Is it interesting that it's Arrow, and a few years back it would have been Criterion?
Well, Criterion is second, but by
Sure.
quite a long margin, by quite a long way. But you're right, because when you look at the competitions that we put out every month, where that we've got the 3 Criterion titles each month that you can win, every time you go, wow, that is something that I know and love, and something that I have never bloody heard of, but would definitely give it a go. And Arrow's approach is a lot more scattershot than that. I remember when they put out their first Blu-ray run, I went out and got some, I got a good fistful. Because I think Hellraiser was in that first set of Blu-rays that they released, which is
I've got a fantastic 3 set of from Arrow upstairs of that.
Of
Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3 in a box with books and cards.
Absolutely, yeah, I have
an awesome set. That is.
It is really, really good. But they, at the same time, they also put out one of the other ones that I picked up at that time was Waking Life, the Richard Linklater rotoscoped improvisational movie, which is a very Marmite film, I've got to say, and a really weird pick. And they seem to have like gone down that route pretty consistently, where you can look at Arrow's catalog and go, that's a movie I know and love, and that's a movie I don't know and I'm probably not really interested in watching. So going back to this idea of like a curated playlist, Arrow's is very much more scattershot than like we said, say Indicator, who know exactly how they want to group their movies together, or 88, who know exactly their specific niche. Arrow are much less like that, but just go, whatever's a little bit out there and we can get the rights to, we will do something interesting with it, which is awesome, which is really, really awesome. I mean, I'm like I say, I'm a total convert. I bought their coffee table book, which is a collection of the essays that were included with their first Blu-ray releases, along with the new artwork that was commissioned for each of them. And it's a great read. And I am a sucker for a book. Let me tell you, I am a sucker for like something that comes with a book. Like my choice for boutique labels is A24. Don't put out many things themselves, but they did put out the director's cut of Midsommar on 4K, and it came with this beautiful little book, which has an essay from Martin Scorsese in it about how much he likes going to the movies. Got a few Martin Scorsese, along with all the artwork that is in the lodges in the film, which I'm an absolute sucker for. I think is absolutely gorgeous, and if they keep doing stuff like that, I will keep buying it. And on similar lines, I got in fact, it was bought for me by one of our very lovely compatriots. Kaz Harlow got me a copy of A Trip to the Moon, which also comes with a copy of Georges Méliès's autobiography, never before published, which, so if it comes with a book, you better believe I'm buying it. I will watch that film and read that book, and I will be a very, very happy man indeed.
I wonder whether Midsommar was a bit of a niche tactic.
Yeah,
because getting Midsommar on 4K, you had to go to A24.
Yeah, you have to go to them. That's the only way.
That's
you can
the only way. I mean, I maybe that's
too niche.
A little too niche. Because I can see that film selling a few in 4K, but also missing a few if you have to go.
Zach will release it in a few months with a massive box set.
Shut up.
You say that, but it's not a new release. It's been 6 months? Has it been on their site? Yeah,
it has.
It's been a chunk of time.
No, more than that. I think it's more like 12 months that it's been out for.
So actually, that's true. I'm sure I saw it at the cinema.
And it brings up a point that somebody made on the chat. I'm just looking for it now. Somebody mentioned the fact that like it's not it's not just a hobby picking it is pretty much just a hobby picking these things up. But if you are to be judicious about it, it can also be an investment, because some of these things are super limited runs. We
Yes.
gave away in a competition a copy of Fanny Lie Delivered, which I think was 4K, one of 1,000, right?
Mm.
It was a really
Something
limited
like that.
run.
Yeah. If 1,000.
Yeah.
10.
And if you pick judiciously, I'm not going to say that specific one is going to end up accumulating in value. It may do in future years, but if you're canny about it and you get in there quickly, then yes, you can pick up something that is going to, not so long down the line, earn you some money. Simon's holding up something to the camera, but I can't see it particularly well. What is it, Si?
That is the Night of the Demon limited edition number of. So that is my number 3 of 10,000. So your chances of getting it now are probably quite slim.
Yeah, we've got to be careful, because all my Jean-Claude Van Damme ones are limited edition to 3,000. You can't get anywhere near them.
I mean, some are limited to artificially drive up value, and some are limited because nobody bloody wants them.
Yeah, I mean, Zavvi love doing that, don't they? They sell out like within an hour of them going live, and then magically reappear a couple of months later. Oh, we found some more for you if you want them.
Oh, they're real sneaky.
But someone also asked in the chat about, is Steelbooks worth it? Are they worth the money? They seem really dear. So my experience of Steelbooks, because I was a massive Steelbook collector and I still go to meetings about it. My experience with Steelbooks is that they...
This is one of those meetings.
Yeah, they look really pretty. If you can just stick to the ones for the films you love, then it doesn't matter that it costs a little bit more. And if you like the artwork and you love the film, sure. But what I got into was just picking up everything that like everybody, predominantly Zavvi, could ditch out in whatever style they wanted to. And I'd want them all. The only thing I would say about that is that once you break that addiction, if you sell them a few years down the line, there isn't a single one of them that hasn't turned a tidy profits. You know, just shifting all of those dead pieces of tin is very, very therapeutic. But no one's going to really take it as an investment at the outset. That's a hard ask, and you have to really be in it to wait your time. I just did it to clear space.
I think interestingly, leading into the future for these, I mean, obviously, all of these boutique labels going 4K is to be rightly celebrated. Arrow, brilliant. Criterion, Incoming, superb. And it's great to see. I'm actually a big fan of these labels going digital as well. So take Arrow and their streaming channel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, and for me, I think that works out brilliantly. So given that I've said I treat these as curated playlists, there are some real duffers that I've bought, shall we say, which are, 15 quid, blind buy, you watch them, oh dear Lord, what was I thinking? And yet they look so good on the shelf, I can't quite bear to take them to CEX and, and all that kind of jazz. But what at the Arrow streaming channel, and even what they do with iTunes with their sales, I treat them as a rental service.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm on the Cheap Charts app every Monday, seeing what's going to be reduced on iTunes, this week, and you can pick up these Arrow releases in a very stripped back but digital fashion. But you buy it, and if you like it, I am straight then on to the individual sites, and I'm buying the fully tooled up, extras laden, super duper editions.
Yeah.
Take something like Tammy and the T-Rex, which just by the title you all know is an absolute classic. There is no way on God's green earth I'm going to, I think it was 101 Films, and dropping 18 quid on a blind buy of a film called Tammy and the T-Rex, right? But it was $1.99 on iTunes. Bought it, watched it, my world changed. My entire worldview has never been the same. And that day I went straight onto Amazon and I ordered the 2-disc special edition that had the R-rated cut, the PG-rated cut, you name it and everything. And I think for me, it's often, and certainly on the forums, digital is something to be scared of. And in some respects, Kaz, what you were saying before about how it seems to be mainstreaming everything, I think it can coexist nicely in some respects. And I think Arrow is the benchmark. I think it's something like £5 a month. You've got access to almost all of their content digitally. It is stripped back. There's no extras. It's not got all the soundtrack issues, which for some of the spaghetti westerns where people don't like the English dub and all that, it can be quite problematic. But as a try before you buy, I think it's worked out brilliantly. And in some respects, these labels have got me buying the same rubbish twice. Talk about a marketing man's dream. I bought Tammy the T-Rex twice, for God's sake.
I mean, I think you're right. You're right. That it sort of brings us on to our final point. Luckily, because we are running out of time rapidly, which is the idea that our streaming service is just going to take over from these things. And I think for the lay person, should we call them, maybe they will, because like you say, Arrow have got their own channel now. So do BFI, for example.
Criterion
have their own streaming service, which you can either go to their website and use, or you could buy it through Amazon as an add-on, or what have you. So for people who are just interested in the film, and I would probably hazard say that is the vast majority of people, is this going to put the sort of releases that we like at risk? Are they going to continue? Are they going to maybe inflate in price just in order to break even? Like, what's the future, do we think, for these boutique titles? Are they a flash in the pan, or
they're already
do they have legs?
Ridiculously expensive, aren't they?
They're a little bit.
I mean, they are pushing it with some of their titles. I can't remember what I was going to pick up the other day. Was it the Inglourious Basterds set? There's like,
oh boy, that's
four different
huge
versions, and it's like 60-70 quid a pop. And I just thought, what am I doing right now? I really like this film, but I can't be doing this. It was one with 2 steelbooks, I think, and I haven't done that since John Wick. But I think, yeah, go on, Mark.
So, sorry, Kaz. I'm just saying, well, but it's a tricky time for these labels, isn't it? Because at some point soon now, our quality expectations have also gone like this. They've risen as and up till now, I think the labels were meeting them. But you just look at all of Arrow's recent 4K releases. They've all had disc problems. Donnie Darko, Demons, a number of them. And we've seen it elsewhere, in the States with the Scream Factory Friday the 13th release. That had 3 discs needing to be replaced before it was even released. So I think the boutique labels find themselves in a bit of a tricky situation where they are small. They're constantly now having to try and find new product, which is costly, as well as now outdo themselves. But they're also competing at a time where us, the experts in the market, shall we say, have got savvy to their ways. Now, I'm not going to pay the £50 Studio Canal tat-laden release, because I know in 3 months' time they'll release a 20 quid stripped back version. And if we all do that, suddenly the money starts to dwindle. And so I think the boutique labels find themselves in a bit of a precarious position.
I can't do that, Mark. I've got to buy the tat. I need
No, you don't.
I often have to get that really unnecessarily fat version that doesn't fit on the shelf. Yeah. I tell you what,
look, it's as big as a hardback book for some reason.
But no, it doesn't fit alongside any of your other titles. Kino, for me, have been the ones who suddenly tapped into a part of my brain and just sucked out all the movies I suddenly want on 4K. They're going to do a William Peterson double bill and Live and Die in LA and Manhunter, which is just, I know nobody else out there wants them, but I am dying to see these in 4K.
No, I will take
stuff.
both of those.
Yeah, and if they do the different cuts on Manhunter, of which there are 4, because Michael Mann likes to change 4 seconds.
Briefcase.
Yeah. I want that. They're doing Out of Sight, and because there have been 16 comments about Van Damme and most of them disparaging in the chat, I will say they're doing Hard Target, and I can't wait. The only thing I'm gutted about is that no one seems to be able to get out that work print cut, which I've seen, and stick it on a disc. And I don't care if it looks like it was shot on someone's watch. I really still would like that work print cut where basically everybody gets shot 46 times as much as in the normal version. Yeah, this is
Nothing wrong with
what
that.
gives me hope for the future of boutique labeling, I think. And just as an aside, I would say it ties into our competition prize. I am quite pleased with smaller labels like Dazzler. They
Visions.
yeah, they are doing a good job at releasing stuff on Blu-ray, which in the past would have never reached Blu-ray. Which for the people who want these titles, and for me, that's things like Mandy or the 800 or Muscle, which introduced me to all of that director's films, and Van Damme's The Bouncer. I mean, they would have gone straight to DVD, and I wouldn't have picked them up. And for people who do like them, they'd have been frustrated that it's only DVD. I mean, it's nice that there are some studios out there that stick stuff on Blu-ray that in the past would have just been forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's even for the stuff that is maybe not what you would call top tier, it is worth preserving these things in a format that is,
has legs.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to stand the test of time for I'm not sure where we go after 4K, 8K apparently, but But, rather see this in high definition than just like fluff out on a DVD and it vanish into obscurity. I mean, they might fluff out on a Blu-ray and it vanish into obscurity, but I would rather it be obscure and I think the people who care about these cult, maybe kind of slightly rubbish but well-beloved movies, they want to see them as good as they can, and they are willing to pay for it.
And I think that actually that's one of the successes, I think, of Arrow as well, is it's been fostering new talent, as well. So Arrow hasn't just, looked backwards and gone, we're only going to release those cult classics. Arrow was, look at people like Benson and Moorhead, with Resolution and The Endless, that twin set. And I discovered them through Spring a couple of years earlier.
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Set, it's brilliant. It's championing new directors as well. I think this is where absolutely these smaller labels have, alongside the cult classic briefcase releases to cater for those of us with more money than sense, which I think all of us here. The fact that he's actually then putting money into new talent and helping spread the word on some of this new talent, I think is really important, and that's a really exciting role I think that some of these could do. I mean, Arrow got into theatrical distribution as well, and maybe that's where some of these smaller labels might well go. So I think the future is very bright for some of these.
I would really, really hope so, definitely, because I think it's the lifeblood of what we at AVF are interested in, and what you guys who are on the forums are interested in. Like, you want to see the best version of whatever is there, and you want to see new stuff and weird stuff and stuff that you are nostalgic for, even though it might not be very good. And that's what these guys are doing for us. And I think if we can support them, even if we're just choosing one particular publisher, then definitely we should be doing that. We are rapidly running out of time. Would we like to do a coming soon? Has anybody got anything pressing that they would love to recommend? We did one a couple of weeks ago.
Foundation, and then move on.
We did give a shout out to Foundation last week. We said it was the only reason that I was going to subscribe to Apple TV. So I think we're looking forward to that. But I don't think it's worth running the ident for. So I don't think we will this time. I think we'll move straight on to our podcast competition.
Boom.
Kaz, what is it?
Well, the competition is to win a copy of Dazzler's limited edition Blu-ray release of Mandy. Oh, yeah. I could have timed it better than that. There we go. Yeah. Okay.
Look, it comes with a little book. So it's good.
I can't do that because I didn't open the prize, Tom. But yes. I was most upset to receive that because I don't actually own it. But they didn't take the hint and give me a copy. But yes, the Dazzler's limited edition Blu-ray release of Mandy, which is a nice set. You just have to use the following question to select the correct answer. Who co-stars with Nicolas Cage in Mandy?
It's Bill Duke. Just go on.
Yeah, I mean, the answer is not, as you will see from the selection of answers, either the director or Nicolas Cage. So I think I've narrowed it down pretty well there. But I will say, I'm sorry to the 60% of people who've got it wrong so far.
Oh, maybe they should have watched the podcast
That's crazy.
or listened to the podcast. Thank you very, very much. That's about all we've got time for this evening. I really hope you've enjoyed listening to us ramble on a bit about boutique labels. I am going to be taking a bit of a sabbatical for the next few weeks, so I'm going to leave you in the very capable hands of Kaz Harlow. You want to say goodnight, Kaz?
Good night to everybody. Thank you to everybody joining us today. And I'm going to really clumsily plod my way through the next podcast, trying to do an impression of Tom next time. All right.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you very much to Simon Crest.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks to Mark Costello.
ETFN.
If you've enjoyed the podcast, please make sure that you give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe and all that usual guff. Please follow us on Twitter and Facebook, whatever. I've been Tom Davis. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we will see you for the weekly hardware podcast next Wednesday. Good night, everyone.